Hello, welcome to Storytime Read Along with me. The Incredible Peppa Pig Collection. 50 Peppa Storybooks. Every day we will read 2 Peppa Pig books. Which books shall we read today? Today we will be reading Peppa Pig, George's Friend, and Peppa Pig, George's Woolly Hat. Peppa Pig, George's Friend. George and Richard Rabbit love dinosaurs, but they don't like sharing. Is there anything at the playground they can enjoy playing on together? George's Friend. Peppa and her friends are having lots of fun at the playground today. Peppa is on the roundabout with Susie Sheep and Danny Dog. George is playing in the sandpit with Mummy Pig. Whee! Ha ha! Hee hee! Rebecca Rabbit and her little brother Richard Rabbit arrive. Richard has brought his toy dinosaur. Squeak! Squeak! Hello, everyone, says Rebecca. Please, can I play on the roundabout too? Hop on, Rebecca, says Daddy Pig. Let's go really, really fast, says Rebecca. Richard wants to go on the roundabout with his big sister. Peppa sighs. If Richard gets on, it means we can't go fast. Richard, perhaps you'd like to play with George instead, says Mummy Rabbit. No, says Richard. George has a dinosaur just like yours, says Mummy Rabbit. Let's go and see. Richard is the same age as George, and they both love dinosaurs. Richard wanted to see George's dinosaur, says Mummy Pig. Grrr, dinosaur, roars George. George and Richard both giggle. Hee hee, hee hee. George, can Richard play with your dinosaur? Asks Mummy Pig. No, says George. Richard, can George play with your dinosaur? Asks Mummy Rabbit. No, says Richard. George and Richard do not want to share their dinosaurs. Mummy Rabbit gives both dinosaurs to George. George laughs and Richard starts to cry. Then Mummy Pig gives both dinosaurs to Richard. Richard laughs and George starts to cry. George and Richard always cry when they play together, says Peppa. Can you two big girls teach them how to play together? Asks Mummy Rabbit. Wah! Squeak, squeak. Peppa and Rebecca take George and Richard to the sandpit. The girls show their brothers how to make sandcastles. Hee hee, hee hee. George uses his spade to squash Richard's sandcastle. Richard cries. Richard uses his spade to squash George's sandcastle. George cries. This game has not gone very well. Wah! Wah! George, what's your favourite thing in the whole playground? Asks Mummy Pig. Seesaw, shouts George. George sits on one end of the seesaw, but it needs someone on the other end. Richard wants to play on the seesaw too. Mummy Rabbit lifts Richard onto the seesaw. George and Richard go up and down on the seesaw. George and Richard are playing together, cheers Peppa. George likes Richard. Richard likes George. George and Richard like playing together. Hee hee, hee hee. Peppa Pig, George's woolly hat. It is a very windy day and George has a new woolly hat. Everyone promises Mummy Pig that they won't get George's hat muddy. Can they keep their promise? George's woolly hat. Peppa and George are spending the day at Granny and Grandpa Pig's house. George is wearing a new woolly hat. Don't get your new hat muddy, George, says Mummy Pig. We promise not to get George's hat muddy, says Grandpa Pig. Peppa and George are playing in the garden. It is a very windy day. Hold on to your hat, says Peppa. Wah! Cries George as his hat sails up into the sky. Catch it, George, shouts Peppa. Whoosh! George chases his woolly hat right through the mud. Whoosh! George, you are all muddy, cries Peppa. But George's hat is still clean. The wind blows his woolly hat across the garden. Oh no, George's woolly hat is caught in a tree. I'll get it down for you, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig and George watch as Peppa climbs up the tree. Perhaps I should help, says Grandpa Pig. Oops, cries Peppa. Poor Peppa has fallen from the tree and landed in the mud. I see 2 little piggies who need a bath, says Grandpa Pig. Splat! Next, George's hat blows on to some reeds in the pond. Luckily, your hat is still clean, George, says Grandpa Pig. He grabs a stick and reaches across the pond. Don't fall in, says Peppa. I know what I'm doing, Peppa, replies Grandpa Pig. Splash! Grandpa Pig falls into the pond. That was a silly thing to do, says Granny Pig. We were trying to get George's hat back, Granny, says Peppa. Where is George's woolly hat now? Asks Granny Pig. Granny Pig spots the hat. It has landed on a spade on a pile of stinky manure. If you walk on that manure, you'll sink, warns Grandpa Pig. Hush, Grandpa Pig. I have no intention of sinking, says Granny Pig, laughing. Carefully, Granny Pig climbs over the manure until she reaches the woolly hat. Got it! She cheers. But then Granny Pig falls over and lands in the heap of stinky manure. Ooh, smelly Granny, says Peppa. Grandpa Pig, Peppa and George start to giggle. Ho ho, hee hee. Mummy Pig arrives to collect Peppa and George. You promised not to let the children get muddy, cries Mummy Pig. Actually, we promised not to let George's hat get muddy, says Grandpa Pig. George's hat is the only clean thing, says Mummy Pig. Hee hee, ho ho. Tomorrow we will be reading Peppa Pig, Grampy Rabbit's Hovercraft, and Peppa Pig, Grandpa Pig's Boat. See you tomorrow, friends.